An IndyCar story this week pits series drivers against the front office. The issue is Mexico. Everyone's disappointed after NASCAR announced a race where IndyCar wants to put on a show south of the border. Popular Mexican driver Pato O'Ward led the soundbite war. IndyCar chief Mark Miles had weak responses for the drivers and fans, especially admitted the series was depending on a driver's father to handle talks in Mexico, where IndyCar wants a partner to put on an event. Even worse, the race in Milwaukee Sunday had difficulties. The series points leader was left on the sidelines when the race started under yellow. Cars crashed at the green, and all of that was played out in front of woefully empty Milwaukee grandstands. To the credit of points leader Alex Palou and his crew, they figured out what was wrong with his car and got back in the race some 27 laps down. Will Power, the man chasing Palou for the 2024 title, was running and was up 3 points for the championship with one race left. But he had problems, nearly hit the wall, and ended up 33 points behind Palou going to Nashville, the last race in 2 weeks. Sounds dramatic, but watching, you wondered who'd want to partner with the series presenting confusion, 10-year-old cars, and not enough fans. Peace.
I will admit I was in Wheatland, Missouri, population 388, in the middle of Missouri, for the KDBA, the Kentucky Drag Boat Association World Finals, and didn't see 1 second of the IndyCar race. But
races,
sorry. But what I read, and now being backed up by Statman Scat, and actually our text thread, we did have a pretty good text thread going about the IndyCar races. Help me out here, Richie, Statman. You've got 2 races in Milwaukee. You have stands that are more than half empty. And you're hoping to put on a good show. And
hold on. Before I'm cutting you off for a reason. It depends on what you consider a good show. Now, driver errors all over the place on both races, that happens everywhere, and that is not a good look on the series. But when you're talking about 763 on-track passes, and that was in the Sunday race, there were more than around 650 on-track passes in the first race. The racing package was legit. I think just like St. Louis, Jay Fry and his group put together a good package with just the right amount of tire degradation and the racing assembly. Let's not even get into the hybrid issues that also plagued the second race of the weekend. But overall, the competition side of things was amazing. So you can't say that wasn't entertaining.
Okay, well, you teed it up perfectly. You read my mind.
Okay.
My point was going to be, with those numbers, the racing was evidently quite passy. Why all this negativity coming out of this race, though? When you've got the hybrid issues, you've got Mark Miles issues, and if you're not familiar with Mark Miles, he toes the line for Roger Penske for the IndyCar series.
You can say he's IndyCar CEO.
Okay, there you go. Well, okay,
president.
Yeah, regardless, and couldn't get out of the way of himself with some of the comments regarding Mexico and the attendance coming into Milwaukee. When I saw a quote from Mark Miles saying, "We'll be happy with 15,000," huh?
Yeah, you'll be huh?
What the hell's happening here?
He says that the day before action happens on track, we'll be happy with 15,000 per day. And then they end up announcing 40,000 for the weekend. So, 20,000 a day. He was just 5,000 off. But that, with local people from Milwaukee just littering social media saying, I didn't even know there was a race. Mm-hmm. Where's the promotion? And then Pato O'Ward, in the middle of all this Mexico controversy, why is IndyCar not beating NASCAR to the punch down there in Mexico City? Pato O'Ward says, maybe this billboard explains things. He's driving into the Milwaukee Mile. He's an IndyCar driver. He looks up and he sees a billboard that says, NASCAR returns to the Milwaukee Mile.
Ooh.
Make sense of that.
And wasn't it the crew members that said they were at a restaurant a mile or two from the track and the people from the restaurant had no idea that an IndyCar race was going on?
Mm-hmm.
Richie, why such negativity about a race according to Crash was fairly exciting?
Yeah, I mean, I thought both IndyCar races were actually really entertaining. I thought they did their job, and Crash was right. Like, for whatever reason, the oval package in IndyCar this year has been terrific, whereas opposed to the post-hybrid kind of street and road courses have been, very mixed. But like, yeah, I was entertained as heck. I thought they were both great IndyCar shows. So, but anytime you step on your own foot like Mark Miles did, and you basically, I'm going to put this in kind of other sports terms. Basically, what Mark Miles did here, and tell me if I'm wrong in this comparison, is imagine if Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, said publicly that Patrick Mahomes isn't as big a star as y'all want him to be, right? If name a star in any sport, right? Gary Bettman, the worst commissioner in all of sports, says that Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby are not as big as stars.
Well, pick an athlete that hasn't won a championship, Richie.
Oh, because Pato hasn't won. Because we're referring to Mark Miles saying Pato O'Ward. The reason we're not in Mexico City is because Pato's just not a big enough draw. Okay.
So, Dak Prescott hasn't won a championship, so you could use him.
You could use him.
Richie.
I would disagree with that because I think Pato O'Ward is the most popular driver in IndyCar right now.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was doing some research before the show, and I was looking at people who were talking about his merch sales, and going back to Long Beach this week in Milwaukee, like people everywhere are in the papaya orange, whether that be for the McLaren IndyCar team or it would be for the Formula One team. Like, people love Pato, people love that Aero McLaren, the McLaren brand. And so I think that's why I make the Patrick Mahomes comparison is like, he's the biggest name in the NFL right now, like it or love it or hate it, whatever. And nobody else in American pro sports is going to do that and come out and talk crap about one of their athletes and it not be the biggest story on sports talk radio the entire week.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that is essentially what Mark Miles did with the most popular IndyCar driver in the series, saying he wasn't good enough. Essentially, we're paraphrasing, wasn't good enough to help IndyCar land a race in Mexico City. That Mexico City said no. Okay, but Daniel Suarez and Pato O'Ward basically have the same fan base. This doesn't make any sense.
But is Pato O'Ward enough? Is Pato O'Ward? I don't know. Pato O'Ward's from Monterey. He's not from.
He's come on. The country loves him. The entire country of Mexico.
But will he put 50,000 people in a stadium?
There were people that flew straight from Mexico, the country of Mexico, to Milwaukee, of all places, this weekend. Yeah, that was not an exclusive Midwest crowd. There were people that flew from his country to see him. Mark Miles needs, the entire executive team needs to understand that. That is real. Yes, Pato can draw.
You're not going to fly to Watkins Glen. You're not going to fly to Laguna Seca.
You're going to fly to Milwaukee.
You're going to fly to Milwaukee, Statman?
All the people that are flying to Milwaukee, including the people who live next door to Milwaukee, they only had, what'd you say, Crash? 20,000 people a day?
Approximately. They're claiming 40,000 on the weekend.
They didn't get 50. They want 50,000. They didn't get 50,000 in 2 days.
Valid.
So, he might be popular, but that might be IndyCar popular. He's not NASCAR popular. He's not a lot of racing series popular. I have my own reasons why I don't think he's strong enough, but I had the nervous of some people in the story I read that they wanted to compare him to Adrian Fernandez. Now, Adrian Fernandez has been, he was a friend of the Freaks for a few years when he was really racing, but Adrian Fernandez, before social media was as big as it is now, Adrian Fernandez had built a huge fan base, and people were standing in line to come see him, get his autograph, and all the other stuff. I just don't think that he's strong enough, and evidently the people in Mexico who live around his so-called fans don't think he's strong enough either to bring in IndyCar on a solo weekend. They said, if you want to rent the track, cool, we'll rent it to you. But they're not going to partner with them to bring somebody in.
Now, just to add another wrinkle to this, I'm going to read Jenna Fryer's tweet verbatim. A new wrinkle, she sent this on September 1st, a new wrinkle in the power of the Pato who. IndyCar chatter is that talks with Mexico City are now officially up and running.
All right, Freak Nation, bringing it back to motorsports. We talked about the IndyCar series last hour and how they continue to trip over themselves, or as Richie says, what did you say, Richie? Step on their foot? No, they step on something, they trip over their own feet. They step on something, if you know what I mean. They step on their...
Yes.
Okay.
You just said they have nothing more to shoot.
Picking up what you're putting down there.
They have no more feet to shoot.
Oh, yeah, you shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. And you said they have no more feet to shoot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was playing off something that was correct.
Yes.
So Pato O'Ward stepped in it and wallowed in it when NASCAR said, man, we're going to Mexico. And we're going to Mexico next year. Pato O'Ward being a very...
By the way, we freaks have been telling you that since June.
Mhm.
We got the tip on this in June, and I don't know why nobody was really listening. I'm like, okay, well, then just wait. When NASCAR releases their schedule, I'm telling you, it's not IndyCar, it's NASCAR going.
Right.
Because there was a lot of vitriol this week. Oof.
So NASCAR is headed to Mexico. IndyCar is not. And a lot of folks thought that IndyCar would be in Mexico, be back in Mexico before NASCAR would. Nope, didn't happen. Pato O'Ward is a pretty freaking popular driver in his country, in Mexico. And Pato, again, stepped in it, wallowed in it, and went after it and said, basically, you effed up, IndyCar. What's the problem here? NASCAR, really? They get a gig there before we do? Yeah, that's how it happened.
Mhm.
And it continued to be the lead story over the weekend in Milwaukee. And during the post-race press conference of the first race, with congratulations to Connor Daly, by the way, for getting a podium. Yeah. With Pato O'Ward winning the race, Will Power. Then
there was no better way to silence that story than Pato. Well, kind of silence the story than Pato going on and winning.
Yep.
And saying, "What you got now?" And then putting a sombrero on his head.
Speaking of, during the post-race press conference, Will Power, love the guy, and I love him even more when he does things like this. And a reminder, the executives with IndyCar are cringing when Pato steps up and talks about why were we first in Mexico.
We should be in Mexico City, not NASCAR. Oh, no. Wait, what? I say we should be in Mexico City, yeah?
Yeah. Pato who?
Oh.
Fernandez? What? Huh? Yeah.
And Richie checked me on something. I thought maybe Mark Miles was right. Mark Miles believes that Pato O'Ward, and I'm paraphrasing here, Mr. Miles, Pato O'Ward is not popular enough. He doesn't believe that Pato O'Ward is popular enough to sell that many seats to warrant IndyCar going to Mexico. And Richie, you set me straight. Kyle Larson is more popular than Pato O'Ward is in the United States. But, well, I don't know. You know what? I don't know if that's a fact.
We think it's a fact. We think he's the most popular American driver currently.
Just look at our YouTube numbers, ladies and gentlemen. People love themselves some Kyle Larson.
They love Kyle Larson.
But if you get outside of our borders, and let's just use Instagram, which is Statman's measurement stick for all things popularity. Let's use Instagram and the numbers for Pato O'Ward. Richard C. Suave?
He has 692,000 followers on Instagram.
Who does?
Pato O'Ward.
Pato, 692. Okay. 692,000.
Well, Kyle Larson certainly has, that plus
it's got to be that.
300,000 more?
372,000.
What?
He's 300,000 less followers than Pato O'Ward.
Correct.
Kyle freaking Larson. Okay.
The best driver in the world. Everybody loves. He's never been better. Everybody thinks he's the best driver anywhere. Anytime.
370 what?
372.
Well, but NASCAR, Daniel Suarez certainly has more.
Okay. Because that's the thing. This was Daniel Suarez versus Pato O'Ward. NASCAR with Daniel Suarez, IndyCar with Pato O'Ward. Clearly, NASCAR and Daniel Suarez will be a bigger draw.
Daniel's Amigos. We know we love ourselves some Daniel's Amigos, one of the greatest fan bases in NASCAR. 175,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
That's a wake-up call.
I'm not having beers anytime soon with Pato O'Ward, even if he asked me. But dude's got some pulling power, man.
Wow.
Like, I never thought I would rely on Instagram to be the go-to for my decision making.
Well, you never thought you'd have to rely on athletes of a series to do the actual marketing for the series.
Mhm.
And clearly that's what Pato O'Ward is doing. How many Instagram followers does IndyCar have?
Let me look it up. I do have a couple of drivers. Alex
Quickly.
Palou, 2-time champion, 101,000.
Okay.
Greatest of all time, currently still driving, Scott Dixon, 162,000.
Yeah, not much.
How many does IndyCar have?
How many does IndyCar have as a series?
I don't have it pulled up, dude. Come on.
I'll say 300,000.
I'll say 500.
Come on, Ricky.
Dude, I can't type that quickly, okay? Jimmy
Quickly,
Christmas.
We got 20 seconds.
672,000.
Oh, Pato O'Ward has 20,000 more Instagram followers than the entire series of IndyCar.